my friends, and welcome to Begin with Butter. Today, friends, we are making brunch, and I cannot think of someone I would rather make brunch with than today's guest. Today's guest, guys, she is just a dynamo in the food blogging world. She and I are both baking bloggers, so we connected instantly. And when I say instantly, I'm going to tell them right off the bat. I met this young woman when I had just started, about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. She was the first person to reach out to me in this whole community and say, hey, let's chat. I want to help you. And at the time I had just started, I was kind of trying to figure it out, not having a whole lot of success. And this wonderful soul that you see opposite me today reached out to me and said, let me help you. I will never, ever forget that. And ever since that day, we spoke for almost 2 hours on the phone, the very first time we chatted. And ever since that day, we have been bonded. We are sisters in baking. And I am so glad that she's here to make brunch with me today. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so thrilled to welcome my dear, dear friend, Miss Cheryl Norris from the amazing blog Bakes by Brown Sugar to I'll Bring Dessert. Thank you, Cheryl, for being here today.
It's great to be here.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
I am so thrilled to be here with you, making brunch. Like, I don't know.
This is fun.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's so fun. So tell me what we're making today, because we need to get right into the recipe today. So tell me what we're doing.
Okay, so we are doing lemon poppy seed scones. And this recipe came about because I like scones, but for a long time I just didn't have a good scone.
Yeah.
Everywhere I went, if you've ever had the Starbucks scones, they're on a little dry side.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was determined to create a scone that wasn't dry, that was buttery, moist, had some height to it, and just was a type of, scone that you would want to go back for seconds versus what I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people, they go to bakeries and they get a scone. Ends up being a very disappointing experience.
Yeah. And so you decided to just, pull out your superpowers and say, I can do a better job. I'm going to do it myself. Yeah. So let's get started. I have my dry ingredients in this bowl, which is my flour, my salt, my ginger, and my baking powder. Do I need to put anything else in here?
Did you say sugar?
I did not put my sugar in there. Do I need to add my sugar?
Yeah, go ahead and add the sugar in there. It should be 4 tablespoons or a quarter cup of sugar.
Got it. And now my sugar is in there. All right. So what do I need to do now?
So you're going to go ahead and whisk those ingredients together.
Yes. Whisk, whisk, whisk.
And then go ahead, and after you've done that, I like to, sometimes I say in my recipes, like whisk the dry ingredients together for 30 seconds. And I know that sounds very prescriptive, but what I want to make sure is happening is that the ingredients, especially the baking powder, and if you're using baking soda, we're not in this recipe, but if you were to use baking soda, just making sure it just really well distributed with the other dry ingredients. So.
And I'm happy to do it. Look, whisk away. I will whisk until you say stop, honey. All right.
So about 30 seconds.
Okay. So what's next?
And then, you know what? I might have had you add the sugar too soon. We want to zest the lemon into the dry ingredients.
Okay. Well,
or add the lemon zest. If you already have the lemon zest ready.
1 tablespoon, right?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I read your recipe. I read your blog post.
Yeah.
All righty. And then another 30 seconds.
Yeah. And then one thing you can do is you can just rub it in with your fingers, or you can whisk it.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and whisk since we're already in here. Ooh. the release of lemon, like the oils.
Mm-hmm. Yes, makes a big difference. And so I understand your family doesn't like poppy
They
seeds.
don't. Mm-mm.
Yes. So just let everybody know you didn't forget the poppy
I
seeds. It was
didn't. I didn't. Okay. All right. So it just smells so good. Lemon, you do not
lemon just
disappoint.
lemon doesn't disappoint. It's that to me it's that one of those year-round ingredients. You can
It absolutely, yeah. It brightens everything. The acid in the lemon like brightens things, but also the smell just brightens a room. It's totally brightened my kitchen. All right.
Yep.
We've got all of our dry ingredients and our lemon zest in our bowl. And now what are we going to do?
So we are going to grate the frozen butter into the dry ingredients.
Okay. And we need 8 tablespoons, which is a stick.
Yes. 100, yep. Or 114. What do I say in the recipe? Either 114 or 113 grams.
I usually say 113, I think.
Yep.
And we're grating it directly in here, right?
Yep, directly into the dry ingredients. And the reason we're doing cold butter is because that will help your scones rise higher. The colder the better rise you will get in the oven, because butter is made up of a combination of fat, milk, and water. And when the butter is cold, so you want the butter to be cold when it hits the oven, because once that heat hits the butter and the butter starts to melt, it will release the steam.
Yep.
That water is going to turn into steam, and it's going to create a pocket
Yep.
in your baked goods. So that's going to help all the other stuff to rise. So that's where you're going to see the layers come in your baked goods. When you have something like a scone or a biscuit, you want that butter to be cold so that it releases the steam right when that heat hits it. Otherwise, if it's room temperature butter, like if you put say room temperature butter in the oven, it's just going to melt.
Right. Absolutely.
That's it. You're not going to get that rise.
Nope. And that's not what you're looking for when we say use room temperature butter, like in your cookies and your cakes. This is a different experience. This is more akin to like a pie dough, where you also want to use very cold butter.
Yep. So you get those layers in your pie dough.
So when you do pie dough, do you use frozen butter or do you do very, very cold refrigerated butter?
I do very cold butter. So what I do before I start anything else, I cut the butter into little 1/2-inch chunks, and I put it back in the refrigerator while I pull together all my other ingredients, all my dry ingredients, and get that prep. And I don't pull it out until I'm ready to add it, and I use it in chunks. And this is, I learned this from my mom, because you want those sides of, you want the butter to be like in between like peas and lima beans is what I tell people when you see the pieces of butter. So that's kind of what you want for pie dough.
Yeah.
Not so much for biscuits. You really don't need that for biscuits
or scones.
It's a different, But for pie dough, you want those flat pieces. You want to see some of those flat pieces of butter.
Exactly.
In your pie dough.
I love when you roll out a pie dough and one of those pieces of butter just kind of spreads, but it doesn't. It doesn't stick to your pan. That's what I love.
Yes.
Okay, so my butter is in my flour mixture. Now what am I doing?
So now you're just going to use your hands, and you're going to toss it together and just rub the butter kind of into the flour. The nice thing about grating it is that you don't have to work the the butter as much to get it worked into the dough. So you're just going to kind of toss it in, kind of squeeze it together in some places just to
coat the
make
butter.
Sure you're starting to create those layers. Yep.
All right. And we are nice and coated. This is something that you should do, friends, when you're wearing something you really don't care about. Because there will be flour. There will be flour.
Yes. There will be flour.
All right, so what's next?
Okay, so now we're going to add the heavy cream.
Now, what do I need to do with the heavy cream? Do I need to add anything to the heavy cream?
Nope, you don't need to add anything.
The lemon juice?
Oh, wait. Do I have your lemon juice? That's right. Add the lemon juice to the cream. Yep.
And that's 2 tablespoons, right? All right, there's 1 and 2. And what's the purpose of adding the lemon juice to the heavy cream?
It's just so it's well distributed. So when you add the cream, and that's why I have you wait until this point in the recipe and not do it first. so it doesn't start to curdle the cream.
Right.
It's just, so it's just well mixed together.
Excellent. I love heavy cream so much. All
So
right.
for this, I would start by adding a cup of the cream. Don't add it all at once.
Okay.
And kind of just work it in, just kind of see how the dough feels.
Okay.
It should be wet. It should be a little bit dry, but sometimes what I find is the temperature of that day can really make a difference on
Absolutely.
how the dough turns out. And so you might have one day where you add all the cream, the full cup and a half,
Right.
and the dough has, is wet the way it should be.
Right.
And then you might have another day where you add just like maybe a cup and a quarter and it has that same texture.
Right.
And a lot of it has to do with the moisture in the air.
Right.
Yeah, it can vary, which is one of the reasons it's important to work with your hands
Right.
and to do things like we do it, because you kind of get a good feel for the dough,
Right. Oh,
how the dough should feel.
and doesn't that feel good when you've developed that sense of
Mhm.
this is what this is supposed to feel like? And then every time you
Yep.
go into a dough, you're like, oh, went too far. It's too wet,
Yep.
or it's not far enough along, or it's just a good feeling. All right, so we're gonna add about a cup of our cream. All right.
And then just use a spatula to fold the cream into the dry ingredients.
Okie dokie. Got my handy dandy spatula. And we're folding. Every time I fold now, I think of that scene in Schitt's Creek. Did you ever watch that show?
I didn't.
Okay. So there's a part where they're talking about folding cheese into something. And it is hysterical. It's one of the highlights of the whole show. The show was 6 seasons.
Okay, now, people keep talking about that show. It's like, okay, I think we're going to have to watch and start at least with the first season and see if I like it.
It's really incredible. I have to say, it is truly, truly incredible. All right. So
how does it look to
it's
you?
very
Still kind of
dry.
crumbly?
Very dry, very
Okay,
crumbly.
so I would add the remaining half a cup, and then
okay.
you do like I do, scrape all that cream out.
Absolutely. Because of cream. Honey, that cream is all going in there. All right. Fold, fold, fold. Fold. All right. And I know that you said you were going to test this with another kind of liquid. Did you end up doing that?
Yeah, so I only got through one test. So I tested it to see if it would work with something like buttermilk, because I know a lot of times people, they don't necessarily have heavy cream, but they might have buttermilk on hand.
Right.
So the one thing I did discover is you can't use equal amounts, the same amount of buttermilk.
Is somebody testing
Buttermilk
cake?
as you would. Someone might be testing cake.
Okay.
You can't use the same amount of buttermilk as you do heavy cream, because
buttermilk is thinner.
which I thought would be the case. Yeah, buttermilk is thinner, has a higher water content than heavy cream, which I thought would be the case, and it was the case. And so,
Nice.
kind of back to the drawing board to figure out what the right ratio will be.
Right.
However, they taste wonderful. They don't taste as buttery as when you use heavy cream.
Right.
And they have a little bit of tang to it, because I didn't put baking soda in them, because I didn't want to. Again, a lot of times when you're testing recipe, you want to change one thing at a time.
Exactly. That is such good advice.
What the impact is.
Even for home bakers who may want to try to kind of venture out on their own with recipes. Say that again, please. Please.
When you're testing recipes and you're trying to figure out what you want to change, it's best to just change one ingredient at a time.
And why is that?
So you understand the impact that changing that one ingredient has on your baked good.
Because changing one ingredient can change the whole bake. And it can make it better. It can also make it not better.
Put a little flour on there, because now we're going to work the dough and we're going to fold the dough, and that's what's going to help create the layers.
Okie dokie.
Yep.
All right. And
so we want to pour the dough out onto the work surface.
And you said that some small crumbs would be normal.
Yeah. You're still going to have that.
Yeah, we have a few. Not bad. All right, we're on here.
So now we're going to kind of start to pull it together. So it's going to be rough looking the first time. So just kind of push things together. Now what we want to do is we're going to do a fold like we would with if you're making like croissants where you do the book fold. And it's going to look very rough. It's going to be very rough looking.
Sure.
So you want to kind of just pat it flat. And then, do you have a bench scraper?
I do.
Yeah, this will help with the bench scraper will help with this. And you just want to kind of create a rough letter fold.
Rough letter fold. Okay.
Yeah, and what I mean by that is that you're still going to have bits of like dough kind of hanging around the edges.
Right.
It's not going to look pretty. When I say rough, it's not going to look pretty.
Right.
And all square and neat, but you're creating those folds.
Right.
So yeah, just kind of
all right. So we have
so this do that letter fold. The bench scraper will help you kind of lift the dough.
And right now I'm trying to, there we go.
Yep. And then just fold in the other side. Yep.
And there we go. Yeah, it's pretty rough, but it's still a cohesive dough. All right, so we've done our letter fold, and then what?
Yeah, and then just pat it again, and you're going to do another letter fold. So the ends, the open ends, you're going to fold those in.
Got it.
The same way with that letter fold.
Okay. Yep. This is actually really fun. All right, so these ends.
Yep. And I think in the recipe, let me say, I'm trying to see, do I say do that 2 times or 3 times?
Right. My mother-in-law's going to be so happy. She loves scones. All right, so we're patting out again.
How's the dough feeling now?
It's coming together. So that's
okay. Let's do one more fold again on the open ends and just press it, and then just shape it into a circle.
Just a few little crumbs. And then fold you in. All right. And now we're shaping into an 8-inch circle, right?
Yep. And I recommend using, and it doesn't have to be perfect.
Right.
But I'll admit, that's the perfectionist in me. So I think in the recipe, I say use like an 8-inch.
Yep, you do.
cake pan to.
Okay. And I have my markings here, so.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, we're just going to shape it into an 8-inch circle, and that'll also give you the right thickness.
This is so easy. You did say it was easy. You did not lie. All right, my circle needs a little bit of work, but we're almost there. Okay.
And then once you've gotten the circle to where you want it, we're just going to cut it into 8 wedges.
And what do you use to cut it?
I use the bench scraper.
Okay, I thought so. But I wanted to ask. So 8. Let's see. I don't know why I cut it at that funky angle, but okay.
I swear it took me way too long when the first few times I did it, I was like, oh, wait, okay, is this, I only got wedges bigger, dang it. Dang it, they're not even.
They're not even. All right, and so now.
We're going to refrigerate them for 30 minutes. So you can place them on a board or on a baking sheet.
Mine are going on.
Whatever will fit into your refrigerator.
How about I put some parchment on my baking sheet?
Yes. If that's the pan you're going to put in the oven, you definitely want to put some parchment paper down.
Absolutely.
My refrigerator is always crowded with stuff. So I usually put them on a board. My husband threw some shade at me one day. We were watching this food delivery commercial where they deliver all the prep food, like all the cut vegetables in these containers. And showed the inside of people's refrigerator where everything was stacked.
Oh, yeah.
And my husband said, oh, that's what an inside of a refrigerator is supposed to look like.
Yeah, I get that too. And then there's usually like a disgusted sigh. And then someone spends the next 2 hours of their lives doing the refrigerator. It's not usually me. All right, so that's going into the refrigerator for 30 minutes.
Yep. And this is just to rechill the butter, make sure it's cold
Right.
as possible.
All right. So we have prepared our scones for the oven. It was super easy. Um, and I really, really enjoyed that. Let's talk about you.
Good.
Oh, yeah, that was
Oh,
fun.
okay.
That's fun. I want to talk about you. There are some things about you that I already know that I just really, really think are the bee's knees. And one of
Well,
them
thank you.
is that you have a real affinity for local produce. Where did that come from?
I think it comes from the fact that I like quality ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times with local produce, especially fruit, you can really tell the difference
Mm-hmm.
when you're using local versus something that's shipped in from across
Absolutely.
the country.
Or across the world. Yeah.
Now, yeah, across the world. Now, obviously, there are times when, seasonal stuff, there's just strawberry season is,
Right?
summer fruit. And if you're looking to do something with strawberries in December, it's going to be shipped in.
Right.
But when I can, I definitely try to do local, local blueberry, especially during summer. Summer, people talk about how much they love fall because, pumpkin spice
Uh,
and things like that. But I love, love, love summer.
Same. Who doesn't
Um,
love summer? Who does not
yeah.
love
I
summer?
mean, not only the weather, but just the food, just the
Right.
produce, the tomatoes, the strawberries, the blueberries. Oregon is known for its
Yeah.
blackberries. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Just the local blackberries, raspberries, just everything.
And are you able
And
to?
then I
Oh, go
also,
ahead.
oh,
Sorry.
but but also as I've become more aware of where our food comes from, as much as possible, I try to support local producers.
Yes. That's amazing. So, do you have local
Yeah.
producers that you can go directly to them and purchase their stuff?
Well, most of the time, most of the local producers are going to be at the farmers market,
Right.
and when I can, I try to like chat with them a little bit to understand a little bit about kind of their business
Hmm.
or just like what's coming next or different things like that. Often there's a line, so obviously you know I
Right.
I'm not gonna stand in line for the 10 minutes like, oh, please answer all my questions about your
Right.
produce. But in that moment of the transaction, I try to like chat a little bit just to find out, hey, what's coming next? What are you growing? And the thing is, you find out, you just get the most amazing the produce. Right now with the strawberries, we have three varieties in the farmers market. We've got Albion, which are the big strawberries that you typically see in the grocery
Right.
store. Those are kind of almost a national brand,
Right.
but locally we have a brand called Seascape, and there's a local brand here, or local brand, local variety here in Oregon called Hood strawberries.
Hood.
And the reason Hood,
Okay.
and they're smaller berries, but they're amazingly sweet. And the reason they're
Ooh.
called Hood strawberries is because their cap, the like kind of the green stem,
Yeah.
is white, like the
Oh.
top of Mount Hood. That's where the name comes from.
Oh. Very, very cool.
Yeah, and I'm sure other states have their local varieties too. And so I always encourage people to, you know, if they're making my desserts, strawberry desserts, to ask around, find out what the local berries are, because
Right.
the dessert is going to just be so much better with local berries.
Right. And do you find that seasonality still affects like what you're making?
Yes, I do try to. Yeah, I do try to be seasonal. So there have been times where I'll have an idea for a recipe,
Hmm.
and it'll kind of be at the end of the fruit season, and it's
Hmm.
like, oh, I can't publish that because they can't get this.
Right.
Like apricots. Like I have a apricot tart recipe on the blog. And apricot season is very short,
Right.
and it was 3 years before I could publish that last year because it took me 3 years to figure out, and every time like I got close, it was like, oh, there are no more apricots.
Apricot
Like I
season.
was like, oh, I need to go get some more apricots, and there were like none to be had. Or I would like last year, I felt like I got it in just in time
Hmm.
for apricot season. But yeah, like apricot season, seriously, like apricot season is so short. It's like one day, one week
Hmm.
they're in the market, and 2 weeks later, they are no more.
Yeah, that's
And
similar to what it
so,
is here. And peaches are almost as short here. Peaches are
mhm.
good from about the beginning, like the first couple of weeks of July until like the second week in August. And then they're available, they're just not good anymore.
Yeah, we have a little. Yeah, we have the peach season here is a little bit
Yeah,
longer.
it's longer just about everywhere. I think.
Yes.
Now, who taught you about seasonality in produce?
I don't know that. Well, it might just been my mom,
Mm-hmm.
because my mom's an incredible baker,
Mm-hmm.
and growing up, she just made the best pies. But here's a good example: um, her peach cobbler,
Yeah.
absolutely out of this world.
Mm-hmm.
But the only time we had peach cobbler was in the summer.
Right. Absolutely.
She used fresh peaches for her peach cobbler, and so for those of you who don't know, when I'm talking about peach cobbler, I'm talking. It has two crusts, bottom crust and a top crust.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people would call it a pie,
Some.
but no, it's a cobbler.
It's a cobbler. Yes.
It's a cobbler, and the interesting thing is she always made it in a rectangle
Of
dish.
course.
She never made it in a round pie dish. It was
Do
always in
people
a
make peach
rectangle dish.
cobbler in a round pie dish?
I don't. People make peach pie, in
Yes,
a
but
round dish.
that's
But what I'm
different.
saying is,
We're talking
yeah,
about
it's
cobbler.
different. We're talking
We're
about
not talking
cobbler.
about peach pie.
Yeah, but we only had peach cobbler with, yeah, fresh peaches. I think one time she made it with canned peaches, and I think we were visiting my sister in California,
Uh-huh.
and my sister really wanted peach cobbler, and there were, no fresh peaches
Right.
at that time, so we used canned peaches. But yeah, we did not have peach cobbler at Christmas time.
No, that wasn't a Christmas dessert. It
Um,
wasn't a Thanksgiving dessert. It was only
mm-mm.
for summer. And
Yep.
I remember my mother teaching us about seasonality and produce. I'm old enough to remember a time that when you went to the store after, say, strawberry season, you didn't see strawberries until
Mhm.
the next year during strawberry season. So
Yep.
figuring out seasonality was much easier when I was younger because the things just weren't there, right? And
Mhm.
as a kid, it's like, well, it's not there. I don't see it. So I don't want it. But now it's challenging because you can buy strawberries 365 days of the year, but they're only going to be
Yeah, but they
good.
don't taste as
Right.
good.
They're only going to be
Yeah.
good. They're going to be nice and sweet, maybe a little sweet tart every one, every few
Mhm.
strawberries. You have a short window of
Yep.
time for that. So I really
Yeah, like I have
appreciate
a
that about
strawberry.
you. You have a strawberry what?
Oh, thank you. I have a strawberry curd recipe
Hmm.
on my site, and I tell people it's going to be best if you wait until strawberries are in season.
Absolutely.
Because you're just not going to get the same flavor when you got those big strawberries
Right.
with the big white centers.
Right.
They don't have as much flavor, so the curd is not going to have
Right.
the same flavor.
You are so right. And for those of you who have not tried Cheryl's curd recipes, first of all, shame on you. Secondly, they are the only ones I do. So
Oh, thank you.
there are not very many things that I won't publish on my site. Cheryl has, for me, perfected fruit curds. She has
Oh, thank you.
several of them on her site. If you all are ever wondering, or if you ever need a fruit curd to add, like you could use lemon curd with these delicious scones that we're getting ready to make. But
Hmm.
if you ever need a curd to accompany something or go into something, please use Cheryl's. Cheryl, tell
Oh,
them
thank
your
you.
website name really quickly so that they can go and look for curds. Please.
So my website is Bakes by Brown Sugar.
Very easy to remember.
Yeah.
I will link
Yeah.
some of the curd recipes below so that you guys can go and check them out. Now, Cheryl, for those who don't know, can you explain what a curd is? Because the first time I heard it, I was like, ew, that sounds disgusting.
I know the name.
What do you think when I heard the name? But when I tasted, my first curd was a lemon curd, as I'm
Mhm.
sure most people's was.
Yeah.
When I tasted it, I was like, where has this been all my life? So can you explain to
Right?
people what curds are?
So fruit curds or lemon curd is what most people have had.
Hmm.
Is it's a fruit custard,
Right.
basically. It comes from England, and so it's the combination of fruit where you would typically use milk. You're
Hmm.
now using like fruit juice, in this case lemon
Right.
or whatever other fruit you might be using, eggs and sugar. And those are the base ingredients. And then typically you do add butter towards the end.
Hmm.
You may cook it with butter or add butter towards the end, depending on the recipe. and that helps. I feel like the butter kind of accentuates the fruit flavor in the curd.
It does.
It helps thicken it up, it helps thicken it up in the end.
It does. It definitely helps the texture.
Yeah.
It makes it a richer, much richer mouthfeel. Yeah, don't skip the butter.
Yeah. But if you are gluten intolerant, I'm sorry,
Lactose.
if you are lactose intolerant, or you just have an allergy to dairy, you absolutely can make them without the butter.
What made you start baking? Like, have you always baked?
Yeah, I have. Well, the first thing I remember baking was chocolate chip cookies when I was 7 years old.
Ooh.
So, like I said, my mom was an incredible baker,
Mhm.
and one of the things she made on a regular basis was chocolate chip cookies. And so I remember asking her if I could bake cookies,
Yeah.
because I wanted to go in the kitchen and make cookies by myself.
Right,
put that in
right.
quotes. Because my mom is supervising the whole
Of
time, and
course.
I tell people this story before that. So we didn't have an electric mixer, and so my mom did everything by hand.
Wow. Wow.
And so she made chocolate chip cookies.
She creamed
Yeah,
butter
so
by
she made
hand.
chocolate chip cookies by hand. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Respect.
if you made chocolate chip cookie dough, you know how stiff it gets after
Yes.
you've added the flour.
Yes.
So she took me through all the steps. She made me sift the flour. I hate sifting flour, and it was the old way of sifting the flour. We took, that splatter screen you have, that grease
Yep.
splatter screen that you have.
Mhm.
Yep. I had to put that over a bowl and put the
Mhm.
flour on top of
And
that,
move it
and
through,
use
yeah.
a spoon. Yep, move it through.
Mhm.
So that was one of the things that when she was teaching me to bake anything or watching me, she made me sift the flour, and I just remember thinking, I hate sifting flour. Anyway.
So just ignore me then. I'm
Yeah.
always talking about sifting.
So
Oh, that's
I know. No,
hilarious.
hey, I do sift the flour. If I tell you to sift the flour, I've sifted
You're
flour
just
for
like,
that
I
recipe.
hate
But
doing it.
yeah,
I just hate it.
yeah. As a kid, yeah, it was just like that one step that was like, let's get to baking. So anyway, she supervised. She was like stirring, and she added the flour.
Mhm.
And I remember my 7-year-old self was just like, I probably did like 2 or 3 turns, and it was like,
Mhm.
oh, this is too hard.
Right. Yeah. It
And
would be hard
and
for a
so
7-year-old.
so she took over, and she was whipping that.
Yeah.
She was whipping that cookie dough. And I remember thinking, my mom is the strongest woman in the world,
Absolutely.
like, or the strongest person in the world. Because I just remember as a kid, that dough was so stiff, so hard, and she was just like,
Yeah. Like it was
she was just
nothing.
getting it done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. And
amazing.
then of course when it was time to I was able to put the cookie sheet in, but
Mhm.
she wouldn't let me take it
Right.
out.
Because it was hot.
She's the one that took it out. But yeah, that was the first thing that I made.
Here they are.
So yay!
And again, friends, Cheryl's recipe is for lemon poppy seed scones. My family, I fear, it's not a
Oh, and just make sure you just brush the top and
yes.
not the sides, because the egg,
Okay.
can seal the edges.
Oh, we don't want that. Okay. Thank you. Because I will brush every bit, every part, every exposed part of these things.
And so this is what I do too with something like an egg wash.
Uh-huh.
When you have leftover eggs, because sometimes people are like, "What do you do with the leftover
Right.
egg?" I will make scrambled eggs the next day.
Okay, that's a great idea, actually.
I will combine it with like another egg or something,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, just do scrambled
That's
eggs.
yummy. That's a yummy idea.
But only the next day. There's something about the eggs start to look funny when they sit too long
Yeah,
in the refrigerator.
totally agree. So we have our quiche, which is a little more brown than what I wanted. But this is a, let's see, Parmesan, mushroom, spinach, and turkey sausage quiche. And I'm going to go ahead and give
Oh,
it a
that sounds
cut.
good.
Because why not? Because why not? Let's see how we turned out today.
I heard the crunch of the crust.
Yeah.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, it's a good sign, but let's see. Let's see which piece we want. I mean, the middle is set, obviously, because I baked the heck out of it. But let's see how it came out, shall we?
Yes.
This is brunch after all, and we want to make sure, because quality control is so important, we need to make sure
Absolutely.
But everything is as it should be. All right. So this is my quiche. I use an all butter pie crust. I did make the pie crust. Ooh.
Looks cheesy.
Yes, it's very cheesy. I use Parmesan. I'm very happy with the bottom crust, actually. It's not soggy. I did pre-bake it. So
yeah, it looks like, when you turn the pan over before a little bit, it looked very nice. It looked like it had a really nice brown color.
Yeah, it is very brown. It is very brown. And so I just want to give it a quick taste to see how I like it. I like it. I like it a whole lot.
Oh, that's good.
And actually, the crust is a little more brown than I would have wanted, but it has a very good flavor to it.
And what temperature did you bake the quiche at?
350 for 50 minutes. Was not expecting that outcome today.
I do like Parmesan adds a really nice flavor.
Yeah. And it cuts down
like
on
saltiness.
Yes, it's a nice saltiness. There's a nice texture that the melted Parmesan adds. I love using Parmesan instead of like breadcrumbs and stuff. I just prefer that at this point. But yeah, the Parmesan in here gives it a very nice saltiness. It adds to the texture. It's a very very rich texture. That's also due to the fact that there's heavy cream in with my eggs. And then I have mushrooms, I have spinach, and I have turkey sausage, which is a really, really nice bite. So yeah, friends, you can look for that on the site coming up soon. Again, this is my all butter pie crust, which is my favorite in the whole wide world to eat. And we did some folding today with the scones. I fold my pie dough. So I make the dough, I roll it out right away, and then I fold it. I do 4 folds, and then I put it back in the refrigerator to set the butter. And then right before I'm ready to build my pies, that's when I roll it out for the last time. And it gives me this wonderful flakiness every single time. I love it so much. So this is one of my favorite questions.
Okay.
I'm going to ask it to you.
It doesn't involve a little child, does it?
It doesn't. But it is another hypothetical. So Barack and Michelle and Jill and Joe are coming to your house tonight for dinner. What are you serving them?
Ooh, okay. You know what? I'm gonna go basic.
Okay.
Because I don't want to mess it up. Well, no, you can. And when I say basic, I'm not talking like tuna fish sandwiches, but so I'm gonna go with roast chicken.
Okay.
Because unless I don't think any of them are vegetarian, so I'm gonna go with roast chicken.
Fair.
Because a good roast chicken is amazing.
It's amazing, and it's a stunner.
Yeah, I'm going to go with roasted carrots.
Okay.
I love roasted carrots. I don't know if you've ever had them before.
I have, yes, I do.
They're amazing. And I have a really good recipe for potato au gratin that once it sets, like you can cut it and it keeps its shape.
Yeah.
And again, who doesn't love potatoes with cheese and cream?
I don't know, but I don't want to know those people.
Yeah. And then probably a salad, a nice green salad. Again, it's summer.
Right.
You got plenty of good produce. And then dessert, seriously, this time of year, I would probably do a strawberry shortcake.
I feel like that's not simple.
Well,
that's not a simple thing to execute.
Well, yeah, you gotta get it going with the oven. But I guess when I say basic, I'm not trying to like, ooh, I'm going to like make beef Wellington or, something complicated
Right.
or, where it has like a ton of steps,
Right.
um, in terms of, trying to get it done.
Right.
And, I feel like roast chicken, potatoes with a side vegetable, that's
But it's not like roast chicken and roast potatoes. It's potatoes au gratin.
gotten, yeah. Well, maybe you press them a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. Assuming, no one has a lactose intolerant. Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
Then we'll go back to the roasted potatoes.
Always gotta have a backup plan. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I think these guys are done. What am I looking for?
So they should be, so they should have doubled in height
Okay.
or, risen significantly.
Okay.
They should be golden brown on top. And also in the recipe, I give a internal temperature.
Yes. So we have achieved golden brown.
Ooh. Yes. So those do look good. But yeah, if you have,
Of course, I have
one of the
my
things I
instant read.
and I believe it says 204.
Okay.
So if it's around that, so if it's like 202 or 200, it should be fine.
Okie dokie. Oh yeah. We're at 205.
We're good.
So we are done. Look at this guy. Can you see it? When can I eat them?
Yes. I would let them, see, I think I say if you're going to glaze them, you obviously want them to come to room temperature.
Mhm. And I will glaze most of them. But when can
I would say let them cool for at least 10 minutes so you don't burn your tongue. Having said that, that does not mean I have not started tasting something as soon as they come out of the oven.
see, Cheryl knows me, y'all. And she knows I am greedy, number one. And she also knows I'm impatient, number two.
So you can taste them right now. I will tell
Okay.
people you can taste them right now.
Look, I took the smallest one and we are giving it a little taste.
What you think?
That's perfection. That is perfection.
Oh, thank you.
Just like everything that comes from your site, Cheryl's extremely thoughtful about what she puts together, how she puts things together, how she explains them, and what goes on her site. Cheryl's not going to put something on her site that is not thoroughly vetted first. And this is
if I don't like it, it's like one on the side.
This is an example. It's super buttery without like greasing up my fingers because I don't love that. But it's very buttery. It's very hot. It is very hot.
Yeah.
Kids, don't try this at home. Oh, but it's so good.
Nope. So when my mom would make peach cobbler, I kid you not, especially when I became an adult, she'd tell me she's gonna make peach cobbler, and I'd be like, "Okay, Mom, I'm gonna be home at 5 o'clock. Make sure it doesn't come out of the oven before then because I loved her peach cobbler right when it came out of the oven. It would be still bubbling hot, and my mom would be like, "You're gonna burn your tongue."
Yeah, that's hot sugar.
That's
hot sugar.
No, I'm standing because my mom lived with me for a while before she went into assisted living, and so I'd be standing there as she's bringing it out of the oven.
That's hot sugar, though. It's hot sugar.
It was still good. I don't care. Like my mom said, "You're gonna burn your tongue." I'd be like, "I don't care."
I'm sure you did. It's literal hot sugar. It's like that's like putting lava in your mouth.
Yep.
She said, "Yep." She said, "Don't take it out of the oven before I get home," and she would oblige you.
She would.
Oh my.
You have to understand, my mom only made peach cobbler 2 or 3 times a year. That was it.
And you were going to get that first hot bite. Like it was probably all running in the pan.
It was.
No chance to set up.
All the juices have run out. I mean, you have it set up later, so that other corner piece. was all set, was all set up.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And whenever my mom made anything like, especially like a peach cobbler or her chicken pot pie,
Yum.
everybody wanted the corner piece.
Of course. There's something about the corner piece with anything, the lasagna, the brownies, chicken pot pie. It's always the corner piece. It's always
Well, those were the pieces with the most dough, so pie crust, and so people wanted my mom. My mom's pie crust is
Right.
incredibly flaky, so everybody wanted that
Mm.
her incredible pie crust.
As you've been talking, I have eaten nearly an entire scone. And I have no apologies to give. None.
Hey, when you do the work, you get the rewards.
They're like flaky in their own right. I am so thrilled with these. And look at these beautiful, I don't want to dump them out because if I dump them out and they break, I would just be so devastated. But they're beautiful. They're nice and brown, like they are flaky and tender. And as they cool off, I'll be able to put the lemon glaze on them, which will be lovely. And maybe even dress them with a couple of poppy seeds as they were intended. Well, some of them. I'll put some poppy seeds on maybe a few of them. But yeah, Cheryl, these are the bomb. And I have to say, this is the last episode of season 1 of I'll Bring Dessert. And it was a perfect brunch to end the season. And I truly, truly appreciate you being here today. And I loved making these scones with you.
Yay.
So thank you so much, friends. I'm going to keep Cheryl for a few more minutes. But I am going to say, those of you who have watched I'll Bring Dessert all season, thank you so, so much for supporting this effort. It's helping us to bring our stories, right, to the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
And it's helping me show you all some of my favorite people in this food space. Next season, we will have more creators, but we also have some other people who will be showing up as well, who I just know that you're going to adore. But yeah, I really appreciate you all being here and supporting I'll Bring Dessert for the first season. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next season on I'll Bring Dessert. Bye, everybody.